In most kinds of birds, their social behavior usually centers around three specific things: their nest, their territory, and the care of their young. In today's video, we're going to take a look at a species that cares about none of these things. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Glad to have you here like always. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a very specific species of bird. Now, this is a parasitic species. Yes, you heard that right, a parasitic species. And this means that this species does not care about the normal social behaviors that most birds usually care about, which is usually territory, their nest, and feeding their young. This species does none of that. Although we will get a little bit later into some of the finer details of the territory, because males do have call sites which are kind of like their territory, but it's not the typical usual type of territories that other birds will have. Now, this species that we're focusing on today is the Combassou Finch. And before we go any further with this video, I'd like to take a moment to thank one of our viewers and subscribers, Deb Nazario, which is the one that originally kept this pair and had this pair of finches. Now, Deb was nice enough to give me a call and let me know that she had this beautiful pair that she wanted to gift me. And she wanted to see them in our outdoor aviary, and I just couldn't say no. So after keeping these birds in quarantine for the first 40 days, they were then introduced into the outdoor aviary, and during this time, the male fully molted out of his non-breeding plumage into his full coloration for the breeding season. And it's a little bit late that we're coming out with this video because you've already noticed that this special little black bird in some of my videos has come out, and many of you have been asking what species of bird that is, what is it called, where is it from, and it's about time that I do an aviary release video on that species. So like I mentioned, that species is called a Combassou Finch, and it is also known as a village indigo bird or a steel blue widowfinch. This species of finch is from Africa, mainly south of the Sahara Desert. The indigo bird is found in many open habitats, including open woodlands, scrubs, and cultivation, but as its name implies, it is most readily seen near villages, and it is always often very close to its host species, which is the red-billed firefinch. So as you can see, it is very important to note that if you want to have success breeding this species, you will also have to keep inside of your aviary the same host that it uses in the wild. In order to get the species to successfully breed for us in captivity, you have to have the red-billed firefinch in the same enclosure so that the females can go ahead and lay their eggs in the nest of the firefinches. Because males of this species will not build a nest, nor will they help in the feeding of the young. See, in the wild, what happens is that these birds will sit up high in a very tall perch at the top of a tree, and they will start to make their distinct calls and songs. Some of these calls and songs actually resemble that of its host species, which is the red-billed firefinch. Now, what happens when they start to do these songs and calls is that they will start to attract a variety of different females from within that same species, and it's usually females that are ovulating, ready to breed. Now, you're probably wondering, how is it that you know that only females that are ovulating and ready to breed are the ones that are visiting these call sites? Well, let me make it perfectly clear that most of, if not all of the information that I am getting for this video has come from field studies that were conducted in 1973 by Robert B. Payne. And in that ornithological journal, they studied these birds in the wild, and they noticed that the majority, if not all of the females that were visiting the call sites of the males were at different stages of the breeding cycle. Some were very early on where they were ovulating and ready to start breeding, and others already had eggs inside of their oviducts. Now, the way that they were able to figure this out was during those field studies, they would wait for the females to mate with the males, and then they would shoot them down. Now, I know what you're thinking, this sounds awful, but unfortunately, I guess that during this time, this was the only way for them to continue their research and studies with this species. One of the very cool things that was figured out during this study was that this species is polygynous, meaning that the males will mate with a variety of different females while the females will strictly stick to one male for breeding purposes. Now, why is this so important? It's very important to note this behavior in the wild because we can kind of recreate this in our aviaries, and it'll help us with our success rate with the species. Keep in mind that now, knowing that the species is polygamous, we know that we can keep one male and have up to 3 females in the aviary with them. And what this is going to do is that it is going to make your chances at breeding the species a little bit better, since now you have 3 females that will potentially have a chance at mating with this one male. Now keep in mind that if you are going to do it this way, you're also going to have to increase the number of host species that you keep in that aviary. So if you have 3 females of the village indigo bird, you want to at least keep 3 pairs of the red-billed firefinch as well. This is going to give each one of those females a chance to kind of sync their breeding cycles with that of their host and potentially lay their eggs in the host nest. Once these males begin to make their calls, any female within the area that is ready to breed will meet up with the male and copulation will take place. Usually these females have been hanging around with red-billed firefinches and they know where those nest sites are at. So once copulation takes place, they will go and they will find these firefinches, find and scout for a nest, and they will begin to lay their eggs inside of that nest. Now, unlike other parasitic species, like for example the cuckoo bird, which tends to destroy the eggs of the other birds or toss out the chicks from its host species, these birds don't actually do that. They let the host species keep all of its natural eggs. They will just lay from 2 to 4 eggs inside of that nest. The eggs themselves pretty much resemble that of the host species. They're the same color, but maybe slightly a little bit bigger. And once these chicks hatch, they will beg in the same pattern as the host species and resemble the chicks of the host species, making it very easy for the host, which is the red-billed firefinch, to go ahead and feed these chicks. Alright guys, well this is going to be the end of another video. I really hope that you guys have enjoyed it. As you can see, this is a brand new species that I've never worked with in the past, so I am doing my research on them, trying to figure them out. And this is something that you guys as well should be doing at home anytime that you acquire a new species. The best way to have success with any new species is to do as much research as you possibly can on that species that you will be working with, whether that's through field studies or ornithology journals, different breeders' experience, and so on and so on. For me personally, I love to find out different types of field studies because the better or the more that we can understand how these birds interact in the wild, the better your success rate will be with them in captivity. Like always, if you've enjoyed this video, remember to hit the thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful day. We will see each other in the next video.